The old playbooks for success, they're pretty much going to be obsolete by 2026. So, what if the real key to unlocking peak performance isn't just a better strategy or some new tech? What if it's about getting a handle on the hidden human dynamics that truly drive results? Today, we're going to explore a new operating system for organizations, one designed for this future, the Human-Centric Leadership Model. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to shine a light on this invisible problem that plagues most workplaces, what this model calls the gray space. Then we'll get to the solution, a really cool idea called stagility. From there, we'll unpack the whole operating system, see how it actually works, and then, this is the important part, we'll connect it all to the bottom line with something called the thriving dividend. All right, let's dive right in with the problem. Every organization feels it. This kind of invisible friction that just slows everything down, drains all the energy. Well, this model actually gives it a name, the hidden gray space. So, I want you to think about your own workplace for a second. The biggest headaches, they're not usually the loud, obvious fights, right? The really damaging stuff, it festers in the shadows, in places you can't just point to on an org chart. So the question is, where does that toxic culture really hide? It hides in what this model calls the gray space. And honestly, it's the perfect name for it, because it's not black and white, it's that murky, hard-to-define zone. You know that feeling when there's tension in a meeting, but you can't quite put your finger on why? Yeah, that's the gray space. It's where all those subtle behaviors and leadership blind spots crash into each other and just quietly suck the life and performance out of the room. So this gray space, it really shows up in four main ways. First up, you've got subtle toxicity, those backhanded compliments or little comments that are impossible to report to HR but still really sting. Next, you have leadership blind spots. These happen when everyone is managing up, making sure the bad news never reaches the top. Third, there's structural ambiguity. When nobody's really sure who owns what, it just leads to anxiety and burnout. And finally, transformation instability, that super rocky period when you're trying to change the culture and middle managers are kind of freaking out and don't want to let go of their power. Okay, so we've put a name to the problem. Now let's talk about the solution. And this brings us to a really powerful and kind of cool new concept, stability. So what exactly is stagility? It's a simple idea, but man, it has huge implications. It's basically a mashup of stability, things like psychological safety, trust, and the agility every business is chasing, like speed and innovation. The whole idea is to be both solid and fast. And this right here is the crucial insight. We're often taught that stability and agility are opposites, like you have to trade one for the other. But just look at this. Stability isn't fighting agility. It's the foundation for it. It's the launchpad. All that trust and psychological safety, that's what lets you launch the rocket of innovation. You just can't have real agility without that solid base. Okay, so how do you actually build this stagility thing into your organization? Well, that's where the HLM operating system comes in. Think of it like a blueprint, a recipe for creating a high-performance ecosystem that actually sustains itself. The path forward has four pretty clear steps. First up, you diagnose the issues, kind of like an organizational MRI, to find those invisible energy leaks. Next, you redesign roles and processes to get rid of the drudgery and focus on high-value, human-centric work. Third, you change how you govern, giving teams more power to make decisions fast. And finally, you develop your people, training them to be the kind of leaders who can handle this new reality. All right, but let's be real. Does all this theory actually work in the real world? Let's bridge that gap now and look at some of the tangible results. I really love this analogy because it's just so spot on. These diagnostics aren't your typical employee surveys. They really are like an MRI for your company's culture. They make the invisible stuff visible, measuring things that really matter, like psychological safety, how much agency people feel they have, and of course that all-important stagility balance. In this slide, this is where you see the dual return on every single action. Just look, each service delivers a hard business outcome and a critical human outcome. They go hand in hand. So better diagnostics don't just make people feel safer, they actually help predict financial risk. A smart redesign doesn't just reduce burnout, it optimizes your human capital ROI. And that's just a fancy way of saying you get a better return on every dollar you spend on your people. It's a true win-win. And this is a super important point. We're not just talking about HR initiatives here. No, these are core operational upgrades. You use diagnostics when you're going through a merger to find those cultural landmines. You redesign your operations to cure digital exhaustion. You know that feeling, right? Always on, buried in emails and pings. You even change how you hire so you don't accidentally bring on that brilliant jerk who hits all their numbers but just poisons the well for everyone else. Okay, and all of this leads us straight to the bottom line, the thriving dividend. This is the part where we stop talking about culture as some fluffy, nice-to-have thing and start actually calculating its financial impact. Because really, the ultimate goal is to get beyond the guesswork, to stop just hoping culture has value and to start calculating it. We're talking about a real, measurable return on your investment in your people.
Now, here's how they actually put a number on it. This formula might look a little intimidating, but it's basically calculating your human capital ROI. It looks at your profit compared to what you spend on salaries and benefits. But the secret ingredient, see that little TM at the end? That's the thriving multiplier. It's a number that quantifies the real, measurable performance boost you get from having a healthy, thriving culture.
And here, this is the payoff. Organizations that really commit to this framework, they see a 20 to 30% increase in that thriving multiplier. So what does that actually mean for you? It means every single dollar you spend on your team becomes way more productive. It's a massive lever. And here's what that looks like in the real world. We're not just guessing, we're seeing hard data. Things like a 10% jump in retention, a 30% surge in innovation, and I think we can all get excited about this one, a 30% reduction in time wasted in meetings. I mean, come on, those are real, tangible gains. So when it's all said and done, focusing on these human-centric principles doesn't just give you a happier, nicer place to work. It builds a business that's fundamentally more resilient, more innovative, and yeah, more profitable. You know, the ultimate goal is to build what this model calls a human battery, an organization that doesn't drain its people, but actually recharges them. Just imagine that for a second, a workplace that leaves you feeling more energized at the end of the day, not less. And by the way, this thinking isn't just for big corporations. These same principles are being used to transform all sorts of places, from school districts to nonprofits, basically turning them into architects of human flourishing. All right, let's wrap this all up. What are the big takeaways? First, remember the gray space. That's where your real culture lives and dies. Second, stagility is the key, that perfect blend of stability and speed. Third, the HLM system isn't just theory, it's a data-driven roadmap for growth. And finally, and maybe most importantly, a thriving culture pays a very real, measurable financial dividend. And that leaves us with one final, and I think pretty critical, question to ask yourself. In this new world of work we're all in, is your organization just built to survive, or is it truly intentionally designed to thrive?